One question we get all the time from folks is, how often should I come back to psychedelics? How often should I be having psychedelic experiences? And there's no easy answer for this, but I think there's a few guidelines that can help you make an informed decision and trust your, come back to your intuition and make a good choice for yourself. I think it's interesting because we hear these stories of people, doing ayahuasca 500 times or doing a certain medicine every week for weeks on end, or, having like these repeated macrodose experiences in very short succession. And very rarely do I talk to somebody like that who has had real transformation or actually is like living a life that is much better than the life they were living previously. And I think that's because when we're doing too many psychedelics too often, we're not actually taking these enlightenment experiences, these awakening moments, these insights, and bringing them back into our regular life. There's, two reasons to do psychedelics. One is they're fun and it can be recreational and you're doing it for the peak experience. And that's okay, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I think you still need to be careful about how often you're doing that. Or you're doing this because you're trying to awaken, you're trying to find more depth in your life, more connection, more peace and happiness. You're trying to resolve trauma and heal yourself. And I'm mostly speaking to people in this second category here. The point of psychedelics is to open a door, to provide insight, to provide clarity, often to really release energy, especially when it comes to 5-MeO-DMT. I don't think there's a better medicine on the planet or experience on the planet that can really move energy in a more pronounced and kind of way. But we have that experience of clearing, we have that experience of awakening or insight, but then we have to take all of that and then learn to implement it into our regular lives. And so coming up with daily practices, coming up with clear messages about what you're trying to change, being really thoughtful about your self-awareness in your different interactions in your life. And so I think when we're doing psychedelics too much, it's too easy to kind of bypass your regular life and feel like, oh, I have all this spirituality going on because when I'm in the medicine, I feel so close to God or I feel so connected to the universe. And then you come back into your life and you don't implement any of that wisdom, and you're not all that connected in your day-to-day life. So I just think that's really the most important consideration is, are you taking these insights and are you giving them enough time, and are you doing the sort of quote-unquote boring stuff of implementing these insights into your life? That's why we're here, and that's what these medicines are for. I think the other consideration, and this goes for both categories of folks working with psychedelics, whether it's recreational or for intentional, sort of insightful work, is that there's kind of a range of people, and some folks are more on the rigid mind side, where they are more type A, they're good at keeping track of things, they're maybe overly vigilant. You can kind of be on that overly vigilant, overly rigid side. Or you can be more on the, I would say, like airy side or creative, spacey side, where you're not really great at kind of keeping track of details or what day and time it is, that sort of thing. Like you're more on the side of loose versus rigid. And I think if you're more on that side, more on this kind of loose, airy side, then I think you really need to be careful about how many psychedelics you're doing, because really what they're doing is loosening up the mind. And in some cases, what folks like that need is more grounding work, actually more stuff to help them ground into their daily lives. Whereas folks who are more on the rigid side, I think at least, without all the other considerations, they can tolerate more psychedelic experiences because they're naturally more rigid, and loosening the mind is moving them in the right direction. So it's kind of finding that right balance so that you can, you're not pendulating too far to either side. You're trying to find that middle ground. And so those are a few thoughts on just how to think about how often you should do psychedelics.